Welcome to So You Want to Be a Real Estate Agent. Are you evaluating your career in real estate? Feel like you're ready for a fresh start? Or ready to take your career to the next level? This is your podcast. Welcome back to So You Want to Be a Real Estate Agent. I'm your host, Meredith Fogel, and we are on season 7, which we are calling Lessons in Success. And I have an exceptional guest for you guys to hear from and learn from today. Theresa Wellman is joining us from San Jose, California. And Theresa is a pretty exceptional agent who has some lessons to impart that I think you guys are going to get a lot from. So not only is she in the top 1% of realtors in her board, which is a very large real estate board for those who don't know, it's a huge market. And Theresa sells on average between 40 and 45 million herself. So she's a top producer, obviously, a very experienced agent, and just a wonderful human being. So Theresa, thank you so much for being on the show. We appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Of course, of course. All right. So I usually start with kind of like your how you started in real estate, your background, like what brought you to the world of real estate. So give us a little bit of your history.
Sure. So the short version is, I live in San Jose, which is Silicon Valley. So I actually have an engineering degree. My husband and I both were working tech jobs, did not have any children. We were just got married, bought our first house, and I worked a lot in tech and I was working 70, 80 hours a week, really frustrated. And we kind of said, you know what, let's try. I'm frustrated. I want to try something different. I'm like, I think I can do this real estate thing. So I quit my real estate or I quit my technical engineering job and went into real estate. And that first year was able to make my engineering salary. And I was outside. I was having fun. I was talking with people. So it was awesome. And over the years, it's now been 21, learned to leverage my experience with technical aspects and just the way my brain thinks because I'm an engineer to break things down for data for my clients, but also like for my business and different processes. And that's kind of brought me to where I am today.
Such a cool story, and thank you for sharing that because two things I want to kind of unpack for a second here, which one of them is having a background that doesn't necessarily lend itself to like a sales position typically, right? Like
Correct.
analytical and persuasive, different things typically. Have you done a disc assessment? I'm so curious to know, like, what is your personality profile?
Yeah, I'm an interesting blend for sure. I'm very I'm forgetting the letters, but I think I'm like a DIC combined. Like I don't remember which one's more dominant. They're pretty like all higher than normal. So yeah.
Okay, okay. And so pretty even those three?
I think they're pretty even. There was one that sticks out and I don't remember exactly which, but yeah,
Say.
might be
So
the
for those who
C.
don't know the DISC assessment, D is like dominant. That's usually like a CEO, a team lead is going to be a high D.
Yeah.
I is influencer. So that's like where you're a good persuasive communicator. So the fact that you have that mix
Yeah,
explains
it's weird.
probably why
Yeah.
you're really good. Yeah, you're kind of a unicorn actually a little bit. And
Yeah.
high C is consistency. So the people that like to dot the I's and cross the T's. So you've got like all those bundled into one package. And I'm
Mhm.
not going to say for those of you listening who take the disc now or have taken it, that if you don't have all of those attributes, you can't be successful. Or if you have like a really high C, for example,
Yeah.
which many analyticals, like I would think many people coming from a background like yours, probably are going to trend more toward that high C.
Yeah, I think that's my more dominant one actually is the C.
It probably is,
Yeah.
yeah. But it doesn't mean you can't be successful
Yeah.
in real estate, but there are definitely natural attributes that come along with the I that are going to help you be a better salesperson, and with the
Mhm.
D that help you be a better leader and CEO. So
Mhm.
that's a very interesting blend. If you
It
haven't
is.
taken this assessment, highly recommend you go into it. Okay, and then what made you take that leap? So like the vision I had in my brain when you were talking about taking like just going full, speed ahead into real estate, estate, be like, I'm out tech job, I'm going into the world of real estate. That feels like jumping off a boat without a life raft, right? Like just being like, I'm gonna go swim in the ocean and see how it goes. Like, how did you know that was the right thing to do?
Um, I've always been very like self-driven and determined. I'm sure that has to do with those letters we just discussed, but
Yes.
um, I also there was a unique program I think that lit me up. So I started with Intero, which is now a larger company, but in back when I started in real estate, this was a new company, a new startup, if you will, in Silicon Valley. And they had a training course. It was like a 3 month training course. And so I was like, oh, you teach me, I'm a good steady, like I can do it. Let's go. So
Yeah.
I just jumped in full, you know, all in with that course and did what they told me and executed. So I'm good at following through when somebody gives me something to do.
Okay, so very interesting there because one is like you found a course, you found a resource that made you feel, I mean, you had the natural inborn confidence, it sounds like, anyway, that you're like, if I put my mind to something, I'm going to do it. But you also wanted to learn it first. So you didn't just like jump in. You did have a little bit of a lifeboat there,
Yeah.
which was this training course.
Yeah.
But the other piece that I really want to point out for those of you who take the disc and you score high on that C side is that, and if you got some S in there too, that's like the steadiness piece of it, where you might be a little more hesitant to jump right in both feet.
Mm.
When you take a course like that, like you just said, you've got to execute and implement. So that was probably the real like differential for you is you went in and you just like did what they said because so many people who are high C and high S, they'll spin and they'll be like, well, if I take one more course and I just got to learn a little bit more about this and I got to set up all the back end frameworks before I can actually start to work. So what do you remember about you took the course, and what was like the first thing or couple of things that you remember implementing that got you into your first bit of momentum?
Well, putting together like a list of all the people I know, right? Like building my SOI essentially and reaching out to them and leveraging, especially the people that I'd worked with who knew my personality, knew what I was capable of, because I worked in engineering for 5 or 6 years before I quit. So I had
Mhm.
some good connections there and just tried to leverage that to like, hey, like I'm in real estate. Who do you know? Who can I help? Right. So doing a lot of those kind of connections and calls and lunches to off of the people I knew.
Super, super bold. And so that's another place that a lot of people hesitate is they go, well, people think of me as this. So I hear this all the time. And this is a question we get from our audience quite frequently is people know me as the PTA mom, or people know me as the teacher, or people know me as the, dental assistant, or whatever it was. They
Mhm.
have a hard time in their brains, they think, shifting people's identity of them. I always think they're having a hard time shifting their personal identity more than anything because it sounded like you made that shift quickly in your brain. You're like, I am now in real estate. I'm not in
Yeah,
tech.
I didn't have a personal identity problem. Sorry. I was more like, what do I know that I'm good at that I can leverage into real estate? Right.
Oh,
So
talk more
I
about
took the
that.
yeah, well, I took the data analysis, like just trying to understand the market. What does that mean? I started charting the local market data and looking at it from an engineer's perspective so that I could learn it.
Yeah.
And then I learned later on that that was really valuable to my clients as well. But it helped me get up to speed. And so I just took the skills that I had from my previous career and figured out what's going to apply to this one.
Yeah. Okay. And tell us more about when you say you realized that was really valuable to your clients.
Hmm.
How did you figure that out? And tell us more like specifically what that means. Like what is it? What does that analysis look like? How are you serving it up? And how do you know that it's moving the needle for your clients?
Well, over the years, obviously that takes time to shape, and I've been doing this 21 years, right? So recently, I mean, I work in Silicon Valley, so there's a lot of analytical, and I've just gotten more obvious or loud about the fact that I'm an engineer background. I approach things analytically. There's no emotion, it's data. And I say that to people. It's on my website, it's all over my YouTube channel. And people call me and say, I want to work with you because you're analytical. I
Mhm.
want you look at the data, let's look at the data. So they call me for that exact reason.
Yeah.
And so early on the days, I would just say a certain stat and people would be like, what? And I was like, yeah, I was looking at the data. And they're like, you did what? So then I realized that, yeah, I was a little unique in that aspect. And would communicate it, but it took me years to get more bold and like really use that as a way to drive clients towards me. But it became a tool when I would talk with people for sure.
Yeah, so when you get that how's the market question, you're answering with like numbers and statistics and like
Yeah.
real hard analytical information rather than oh it's great or it's weird. Like I'm sure that's
Yeah.
not the right answer. The other thing I want to point out is what you did so beautifully is yes, you went and you looked for something that you had as like a skill set that you could develop and bring into the market, but you created the word I wrote down is alignment. So
Mm-hmm.
alignment with your market, and you were very able to see like this is my clientele. These are the people that are here, and
Mm-hmm.
here's like the thing I can synthesize with what they need that then created this like, chemistry that
Mm-hmm.
became what your business has been built into. Now, when you're pulling data, how are you delivering it to people? Are you doing it verbally? Are you doing it like, are you sending things to people? Tell me how, like let's say, give us an example of some kind of a data pull did recently and how you got it in front of your audience.
Um, well, I'm currently working on a video series right now. Actually, you inspired me, Meredith. I'm
Good.
looking at, well, I was looking at the last 10 years of data and I'm like, how many different videos can I make out of this? Is really cool. So I broke it down by area and I pulled out the top performers. My first video is the cost of waiting. Like, how much do you lose in equity every month you wait for interest rates to drop or whatever? So I crunched all those numbers. And then I did another video where I rate the top performers by dollars and percentage appreciation. And so I've done all these different numbers and different topics. One on affordability, like the best affordability, neighborhood. So
Mhm.
um, I think now today it becomes this idea. I make a video and then it goes into an email out to my database. It becomes a blog post on my website. So but to me, the video is the first step because that's how I think and explain things.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then a lot of the data is just on my website. I have like market trends on my website because that's who my clientele is. That's who I am. Those are
Mhm.
actual pages on my website as well.
Yeah, yeah. And so putting it on all the platforms, super important. And being able to also, I think, interpret the data, because that's one thing that I think a lot of people, they see the numbers, but they don't know what it means to them.
Hmm.
So regardless of how analytical you are or how easily you can look at numbers and understand them kind of theoretically, helping apply what the data means to the impact on the client's life. So that's where like that cost of waiting, like this is
Hmm.
this is real. This is what this will mean for you. And then
Yeah.
being able to like extrapolate, make meaning interpreted for your clientele. I think that's so important as well. Can you for those who aren't as techy or aren't as, like if they're like, I would have no idea how to even like start to look at something like that. Can you give the audience a couple of tips, let's like for like the rookie data miner who just doesn't even know like where to begin and how to you use the term crunch the numbers. Like
Hmm.
how? Give us a little walkthrough, like a little tutorial about how to do it if you're new and say somebody wants to do this, not necessarily the um you could do, I guess, affordability or you could do equity loss by waiting, but give us like a simple one that somebody in their market could maybe use. How would they start to get the information and where would they go with it to help to create like a video script maybe for it?
Hmm. Well, when I was new, I started pulling historical data and just building up a massive spreadsheet. So I think I have 25 years of data because when I started, I was able to go back like 3 years in the MLS to get all kinds of different raw data. And it's just like I have a couple cities in the very beginning. And then
Mhm.
as I got more into this, I broke it down by neighborhoods and things so I could analyze it more. So for
Mhm.
me, it's the discipline of pulling that data every month. I set up searches in the MLS, pull the raw data, and then like I'm saving it in a master spreadsheet. So then I have the history to look back.
Oh,
That's
that's good.
really, I would say, so it's knowing your local market, whatever that is, setting up a search on your local market, watching it. I mean, you should watch it weekly, like the inventory numbers, the pricing, the percent over asking or under asking. Um,
Mhm.
Watch those numbers and start to save them, and then you start to see trends. I think if you're just looking at a flash in the time, it's hard to interpret anything of it because you need some of that history.
Yeah, yeah. So I also heard you use the word discipline. So you said every month you go in, you pull this. Do you have it like calendared? How do you remember to do it?
Yeah. At the 5th of every month, we pull the data, we update the website. Yep. And then, there's a trigger from that. Like I send out a mailer to my farm after that, based off of that data that I pulled, and so absolutely.
Yeah. So there's that high C, like that consistent implementation of something. But that's again, that's so important in success is
Mhm.
doing something and doing it consistently. Because what we see sometimes is people will try something like this for a couple of months and go, well, that didn't work. Or they fall off the wagon and don't do it for a month. The data is still there. Like you can still go get it. If you miss the fifth of the month or whatever day, you window you set or you're on vacation, you can still go get it. Don't
Yeah.
let that interrupt your flow just because you had a blip. All right, so I'm sure people are wondering, you pull the data, it's in this master spreadsheet. How do you get it from there to the communication that you're sending to your market area?
Well, I mean, it depends on every time, but I mean, I think it's the idea, right? So somebody inspires me, or I have a conversation with a client, and I'm like, oh, that would be valuable to other people. So then I dig into it a little deeper, right? So I would say it's inspired by real life things, or I'll have conversations. I have a client who just had a situation that was overbidding and was able to get into the property. And then I'm like, well, that's crazy. Like, I should go back and look at some of the numbers before, not just comps for that, but like, how is
Mhm.
this year compared to, say, 3, 4 years ago when the market felt kind of the same, right? And so then I start doing that kind of analysis because it is inspired by something I'm doing with an actual client, usually.
Okay, love that. So that's partially just being like aware of what you're going through with the clients and what your clients are
Hmm.
struggling with or winning with or dealing with on a day-to-day basis, and then going back and reconnecting it. Do you
Yeah,
ever use an AI tool to help you
sure.
analyze or interpret? Yeah, what's your favorite?
Yeah, I mean, I mostly use Claude because I've taught it to know me and to know my background. So absolutely, that 10-year data that I had from all the different areas, I had the cost of waiting idea. I had a couple others, and then it tells me, well, I would suggest you do this, this, this. I'm like, thank you.
So crazy. I know. It's so, so good. It becomes like a
Yeah,
thinking partner when you use it that way, when
yeah,
it helps you
absolutely.
and you feed it knowledge. So cool. Oh my gosh, amazing. Okay. So you started doing this and then clearly you quickly shifted the perception of the people that you used to work with and the people that you were in your sphere of influence to, okay, now she's a real estate agent. And you were giving them education, it sounds like, which helped
Mhm.
them understand that you were in this and that you knew it. Like you like just knew this information and you were going to continue to be a resource and give it to them. Do you remember a moment in your journey where you were like, okay, this is going to work out? Or did you feel like that from the beginning? Did you know that 63% of sellers and buyers choose their agent based on local proximity? That's why farming or geofarming is such a proven method for long term success in real estate. If you've been considering becoming a farmer or a geo farmer in your market, but not sure how to get started, check out Farming for Real Estate Agents. This blueprint will walk you through exactly how to choose a geofarm area, how to figure out by running some calculations whether the farm area that you're selecting can support your goals, and will help you track your return on investment. You'll also hear from locally famous farmers who have already dominated their market shares, so you can R&D their secrets and dominate the area that you choose to geofarm.
I feel like, I mean, there were several different levels of those moments, right? Like growth moments, if you will. So the first year, yeah, when I made the same amount of money when I was slaving away in a cubicle, but I
Yeah.
was out and about having way more fun, I was like, oh, this is awesome. We're going to keep doing this, right? But I mean, 21 years ago, I was married and no kids, and now I have two kids. One's in college, one's in high school, right? So, of course, through that, there's journeys of balancing life. So I've had several different moments of growth, and all of them come with some sort of aha like moment for sure. Yeah.
Can you recall any that like stand out for you that if you know somebody is because we've got a lot of people listening who do have like the young kids right now.
Yeah.
You've got people listening who just are starting in this career and they've got the kids like you, one in college, one in high school still. So,
Yeah.
just all different walks of life, but often with some kind of a feeling of like, I don't want to lose focus on my family or I'm feeling pulled by something else. What were
Yeah.
those moments for you?
Well, I mean, for sure, like I know, like as kids got to different stages, right? Like when I didn't need a babysitter to go run off to show a property or meet a client, that was huge, right? So there's different moments where I was able to balance family differently, but I think always it's been about scheduling, right? I'm very critical, like I time block all the time, and that's, I guess, these other personalities I have. Like I stick to my schedule. I have the days that I film my videos. I have times where I go out and show properties and meet with clients. I have times that I do my family, and I have times that I take off early so that I can go do certain things with my kids. My son's high school volleyball season is about to start. So Tuesday, Thursday afternoons, I take off early so I can go to his games, right? So
Yeah.
it's just you have to work with your schedule and your life, and it has to be part of family has to be part of your schedule, but so does work. And I think you have to be disciplined with that, in my opinion, because I think a lot of people just kind of flounder between, but it's when I'm working, and when I'm at family, I'm doing family.
All right. So I know there's somebody listening or watching who's saying, I can never be that person because this thing pulls me off. I get called from the school and I have to go pick my kid up because they're sick. Or, I've got to take him to a dentist appointment, or, something changed in the schedule and it falls on me to make sure that whatever
Yeah.
happens. How do you deal with that?
Well, I mean, there's going to be days that aren't perfect, right? Like you have to work towards the ideal, but yeah, absolutely. Those days happen. And right now my son's got his permit. So I'm having to be there for every pickup and drop off to be in the car with him, right? And that really
Uh,
interrupts my schedule, but it's a phase, right? So I just, when you can, you adjust. And I literally time block. So if something interrupts, I'm like, where can I slide that time block? Where else can it go? Right. So that's what I do is I slide it around to make it work because interruptions are going to happen.
Okay, yeah. So I want everybody to really hear what you just said there, because I think for you, you look like this like shining example of discipline and, like doing things really perfectly. And, that although I think I love what you said about you aspire to that ideal, but you got to have some flexibility in there too, being able to like, so the word you use, slide the time blocks around.
Mhm.
That's something that I talk about in coaching all the time, especially for people who are like, I don't know, I can't like stick to this rigid thing. It's not meant to be rigid. It's meant to be consistent and
Yeah.
it's meant to be defined, but it's also meant to be movable. And then the other thing is having the ability to really like focus on the things and prioritize the things that you are you're dedicated to, like taking time off or not taking time
Mhm.
off, getting, early to go to
You
your
need that too, though.
games. You do, yeah. But that's not like taking time. You're going and being with your family. But
Yeah.
being able to be like, okay, that's an appointment. Like you're setting that appointment for
Yeah.
yourself. So let me ask you this question. Let's say that a listing appointment of your dreams comes into your calendar and the seller's like, Teresa, the only time I can see you is 4 o'clock on Thursday. And that's the time of a volleyball game. How do you handle that?
Usually it's not like the only time, but I mean, I try whenever possible to give options and to be flexible. The volleyball game is a difficult one because that's one I would really try not to miss. But if it was absolutely no other way, then I would just tell my son, "Hey, I'm going to be late," and I would set expectations with the client, like I only have an hour. I'm going to make this work, but I only have an hour, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I would tell everybody, because then I'm just moving my blocks around a little bit, is what I would have to do. Yeah.
Yeah, right. And I mean, you're right. That's an unusual circumstance, but I think psychologically, a lot of times the time a seller like that says, you think that's like their only time. And if you
Mhm.
push back a little bit, you're like, I'm booked. Or you know what? If you say, I would love to do that. My son has a volleyball game. I've committed to him.
Yeah.
Then you're human, and that's okay. And
Yeah.
it's funny how when you start to say that to people, they go, oh my gosh, well, family comes first. And you're like, oh, well, thank goodness then. You're a client I want to work with. And let me tell you, the client who's like, well, then your priorities are in the wrong place. That might be a
Yeah.
client who's going to
Yeah.
make your life hell throughout the entire transaction. So you might want
Yeah.
to think about qualifying people that way too. The other
Yeah.
thing I want to just point out real quickly is what you said about your son Hermit, the process of going and having to like pick him up and be there at drop off to like get the tallies on the time. That is like multiplying time. Rory Vaden talks about that. If you haven't read his book, Procrastinate on Purpose, it's a great one. And it's all like a matter of you front load what you're doing now. And it sometimes feels like a time sacrifice, but it's to multiply your time later on because the time you're focused on that now, the moment that kid gets his driver's license, it's like, now you're free. Now your
Yep.
time has got multiplied massively. So it's like such a perfect real life example of that. Love it.
Yeah,
All right.
that's why I keep telling myself it's a phase, right? Just I got to get till June, just to June.
Exactly, exactly. And if you didn't do the time now, it would stretch longer than June, like you know when
Yeah.
it's going to hit. All right. So the other thing I want to ask you about is your YouTube strategy because you've been very successful at drawing attention and becoming like a magnet for clients from YouTube. So talk a little bit about how you got started in YouTube, what has been the key to your success there. I have a feeling it probably has to do with consistency and discipline and sharing information.
Yeah.
But talk to us about, what you've learned.
Yeah, well, I'm still learning. I'm not by any means an expert, but I started it a long time ago, and I think everything in my business is about setting a goal and sticking to it and not giving up quickly. So, I mean, my farming, I set, a certain amount of houses. I was going to do this. I broke down the numbers, and I'm like, I'm door knocking this many houses every day, and it's going to get done. If they get mad at me, I have to finish this route, right? So YouTube, yeah, it was 2019. I think I started in 2019 one video a week. And I struggled to figure out how to do that. For me, it works that like Thursday morning is my recording time and I just block off that window. And obviously if something moves it, then I juggle it. But typically Thursday morning it gets done. And I just am in a rhythm that consistency because I plan around it. It's a time block, it's a commitment that I make. And then, I've learned things about publishing and thumbnails and SEO and all kinds of stuff that I'm still learning about. But I think clearly stating what your value is or what you're bringing and is important because then people find you that are looking for that, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And when you are filming YouTube content, tell us about your process. What kind of like a film crew do you have? What equipment are you using? Talk to us about that.
I do most of them. I do the best in my studio, which is just my office. It's just the camera's over here, so it's a slightly different angle. And I do out and about videos as well. When I was starting, I would just hold the camera and talk behind the camera, but I was told like you need to be in the camera. So then I've done where I had assistants follow me. I've done a whole bunch of things. I've hired videographers. When I do a listing video, I obviously hire somebody, but honestly, most of my content it's done in a studio, and then I use B-roll to add footage if it's local. But because of my niche, it's a lot of charts or screen sharing or things like that. So um, I do out and about, but I do mostly studio shooting. And I use a teleprompter now. I didn't used to. I used to just have notes, but I found that the teleprompter just makes the recording much more effective. And faster and it takes less time.
Mhm.
So yeah, and I
And how
use my iPhone. I still use my iPhone, but I have the best iPhone.
Okay, so a couple of things I want people to hear. One is in studio is okay. You do want some B-roll as well.
Yeah.
And you don't need a whole film crew to get
Yeah.
started. You don't need a whole film crew to be successful. You don't need like an elaborate setup or, some kind of like custom lighting or anything like that. You can grow into that if you want to, certainly.
Hmm.
But it seems like organic, authentic feeling video is what audiences engage with the most. They
Yeah.
want to understand like who you are, what's your personality, what it's going to feel like to work with you, like to know that you're like a safe human being to interact with. I mean, this is a big transaction for people. So they want to feel like their comfort level with you is high, which
Yeah.
this kind of video helps them to do. And then for your clientele specifically, the alignment that you're creating visually, sharing the information in terms of charts and graphs and statistics and things like that is just like really elevating it, I think. And consistency, like you said, as well, super key. By the way, what is your YouTube channel? Let's give it to people so that they can follow you and subscribe.
Yeah. It's homeowner experience, which is like my brand. You can find it by Theresa Wellman as well, though, or yeah. but
Yep.
homeowner
So go
experience.
check out what she's doing because you might get some inspiration. I'm sure you will by doing that. When was it that you realized first that YouTube was actually becoming a successful lead generator for you?
Um, I was getting some traction pre-pandemic, but really the pandemic, I think it took off because people were stuck on
Yeah.
digital things, right? And I already kind of had a head start there. Yeah, so it's been a consistent generation for me, but I would say in the last 6 months to year where I really embrace like I'm an engineer, I think like an engineer, I'm analytical, and I bring that to your home search, that has like really increased the response that I've gotten because I've niched, I guess, or just been open about like this is who I am. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're gonna attract your vibe attracts your tribe. And the other point you make is like when you niche down like that, you're going to organically attract a wider audience as well. When you try to be like the little fish in the big pond, it happens the opposite way. Nobody finds you.
Yeah.
But I love what you're saying about this. And when you talk about the teleprompter, because I know people are going to want to know more about like the tactical aspects of this, how are you
Mhm.
getting the script together?
I'm brainstorming with AI mostly, like Claude's my friend on that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I'll go in and have a concept and I start thinking about keywords and like what to play and then play with a title and then how do I build off of that? So it's a process, but um, it's something I've refined because again, the AI is learning. Like I have a project set up for generating my YouTube videos. Yeah.
Beautiful. Okay. Okay. So you're feeding it like a some kind of knowledge, some kind of a chart, a graph, something like that. And you're like, here's what I think the concept is going to be.
Mhm.
Help me iterate, help me walk through, help me construct a script. I want it to be between 16 and 28 minutes long, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Help me walk through it. And it's one of those two where when you, I like what you said, you work with it, you play with it, and it's not a like one and done typically.
No.
It is like ask me questions, help me walk through it. What suggestions do you have? And like you said, it will just offer up suggestions to you, which is
Yeah.
pretty cool as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so any other things that you want to share about YouTube specifically with the audience? If somebody doesn't really know how to get started or they're thinking, I don't know if this is for me, this sounds like it's a big, a large amount of work or like a big project to take on. How would you encourage somebody to like dip a toe into the water?
Well, I mean, I think when you start or when you're in a business, you have to figure out things that are going to work for you, right? I love YouTube because I can be who I am. It's out there. It works for me when I'm not working. I was traveling over the holidays. I booked 4 appointments that first Saturday in January because YouTube was working for me while I was traveling. So those are pretty amazing features. But I think you just have to put your mind to it and commit to it and try it. I'm sure I don't go back and look at my old videos. I would cringe, I'm sure, if I saw my first videos. It takes years to get like confident and good, and you got to get over it. Like if you're okay talking to a person one on one, talking to the camera is no different. I think people get stuck on like it's I'm talking to the camera, but you just have to move on and
Yeah, right.
be who you are and embrace it and go for it if that's what you want to, if YouTube's something you want to try. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I would say try it out. I think that's and also if you're thinking about yourself, that you're getting in your own way, think about the person that you're serving. Think about the potential. Think about like a person literally on the other side of the camera that you're talking to. Some
Yeah.
people put like the somebody's face on the other side of the camera so they can envision a human being if that helps you, or just imagine it. But I think that that's such a good way. Now, I want to ask you about geofarming. You mentioned that before. And I imagine that it's the same kind of a practice that you committed to it. You decided you were going to go all in a geofarming strategy. How did you decide where you were going to geofarm? And give us like a couple pieces of what you feel like has led to geofarming success for you.
Well, I've always farmed my neighborhood. So I moved my first neighborhood that my husband and I bought our first home, before or right when we got married, before I was a real estate agent. Um, we sold that one and moved. And I did farming there, but I started to feel like I know I'm not going to be here very long. So I lost the desire to be out there farming. So I was like, okay, I'm cutting it right now. I know I'm moving. When I move, I'm gonna restart. Like I'm gonna be in that neighborhood for a long time. So I just started from the very beginning and I started old school. I like to door knock. I don't mind door knocking. I don't do it much anymore because I don't have a lot of time. But in the beginning, I committed to door knocking, and that's how I got to know people and get out there. And so door knocking was huge because you become familiar. I do mailers, I do events. One thing I took over, there was one neighbor had done a 4th of July parade for the kids one year. My daughter was little, she loved it, and I volunteered a couple years for it. And then I'm like, why am I not sponsoring this? This is in my neighborhood and in my farm. Like, so I started sponsoring it, and it just grew and grew and grew, right? So, um, I think leveraging things that you like to do that are fun for the neighborhood and events are important, but be
Yeah.
known, right? Like be out there.
Yeah, be present and also leveraging things that like your family's already going to be part of. So you like
Yeah.
it, your kids were going to be in it anyway.
Yeah.
Total position of opportunity for you there. And I think everybody probably heard, but I want to point it out if they didn't, the layers of things that you do to be
Mhm.
successful in a geo farm. It is not just pouring print marketing on people. It
Mhm.
is sponsoring and being present at events. It's helping the community come up with things that help build community. It's being in
Mhm.
front of people in different ways. It's building relationships. It's doing social media and email and mailers. And I want to go back to door knocking for a second because I know there's a person out there going, I'm scared to do that. I have no idea what I would say. If somebody opened the door, oh my gosh, what do I do? What do I say? Because that's almost like we hope they won't, right? Like most people are like, no, 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 run away. But so what did you say when you first started to door knock?
Well, I'm just the market data lady because of my background, I guess. So I would have some sort of printout with me. So if they didn't answer, I'd leave it, right? But if they did answer, I would pull out one point like, hey, I was running the data in our local neighborhood, and did you know like this one sold for this price, or like some little point, and just say, hi, I'm Teresa, your neighbor and local realtor. Here's the information I have. This is really cool. Did you know about that? And just see what they
Okay.
say.
So just sharing information,
Mhm.
thought this was cool. Did you, and the question, did you know about that? So
Yeah.
that I think is the key right there, because some people think they have to have, an invitation or they have to have some compelling thing or they have to ask, are you thinking about selling your home in the near future? But that's not what you did at all. You just invited
Mhm.
conversation. So you're like, here's something I thought was cool. What do you think? And
Yeah.
then talk, just
Yeah.
create conversation. And they'll, what would somebody say to you if you asked that question?
Well, sometimes they'd be like, "Oh yeah, that's really cool. Like, I'm actually thinking about selling too. Do you want to come and see my house?" Or they'd shut the door on me. Like, you get all of them.
Yes, absolutely. But the thing that you just pointed out too is you put yourself in a position of opportunity when you're door knocking in a way that you don't doing anything else because of exactly what you just said. It's not like you're on the phone and somebody goes, "Oh, it's interesting you called because I'm thinking about selling my house." And then you're like, "Okay, well, let me look at my calendar. What works?" You're there. So
Yeah.
the person can say to you, "Come on in. Do you want
Yeah.
to take a look?" And the minute you cross that threshold, you are highly likely to get the listing. I mean, you're exponentially more likely to get the listing than you would if you were having a phone conversation or an off-premises conversation of some kind. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it is a brave strategy. It is a strategy most agents will not do, but that's
Mhm.
why agents like you are successful and you're in that top 1% and the other 99% are not gonna do it because they're telling themselves a story that it won't work or it's scary or they don't know
Mhm.
what to say, but you just gave it today.
It's scary and sometimes there's mean people, but that's why I broke it down and I had a route and I was like, I have to finish this route today. Because if I don't, I'll be behind and then that's a problem. Like you can't catch up from behind because consistency was huge. I knew that and I started from the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It was interesting. I had a client, a coaching client a while back who also door knocked all the time. And she would get some really grumpy people. And I mean, people yelling at her, slamming the door in her face. And she was like, I always saw it as an opportunity to offer up a prayer for them. So she'd like walk down the
Yeah.
stairs and she'd be like, please protect them. Cause she's like, I know they were going through something hard if they were going to treat me like that. And I'm like, what a
Yeah.
great reframe that like you just gave it this nice little meaning. And then it gave her this fabulous energy to walk to the next house
Next one. Yeah.
with a great focus. Yeah. All right. You have shared so much today, and we went a little over time, but we had so much to share. I wanted to keep on going. What have you not shared that you would like the audience to know that might help them in their journey?
I mean, I don't, the only thing I can think of looking back 21 years is like baby steps, right? Like figure out what works for you, but you got to try stuff. Like you can't, just because someone says something works for them, it might not work for you, right? So figure out what works for you. and stick to it. Be consistent. Set up a plan that you can follow with time blocking or whatever. Break it down and stick to it. Because it
Well
takes
said.
time to build things in this business. Yeah.
It does. It does. It's a long game. And I think when you can align your strength like you did and your kind of like innate capabilities and interests, and then just, roll with that and continue to build and grow on it in all the ways that you do. I mean, look where you are. Awesome. Awesome.
Mhm. Yeah.
Teresa, thank you so much. All right, so if somebody wants to contact you, they may have questions about many things. I'm thinking YouTube. They might want to find out about buying or selling a house in San Jose. They
Mhm.
might want to talk to you about working with you in the future potentially or sending a referral your way. What's the best way for somebody to reach out?
So I think the easiest for me would just be go to homeownerexperience.com/contact and put in there like what you're looking for because that'll ping me on my phone and I can text you back or email you back, whatever. So yeah.
Perfect. Perfect. Okay. Excellent. All right. So send your questions to Teresa, send your referrals to Teresa. You are in very capable hands, as you have seen with your the shares that you have given us today. Teresa, thank you so much. Thank you for those of you watching and listening today. We would be so grateful if you would leave us a review or a rating on the platform on which you are listening. Feel free to send us show ideas as well and ask us any questions. Thank you again, Teresa. You have been a total joy. So many good tips, so many nuggets of gold. Thank you for being here, and thank you everybody for listening and watching. This has been So You Want to Be a Real Estate Agent. We'll see you next time.
Thanks.